Hello, Luis.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Yeah,
Right now it's off to a slow start today, but
yeah, looks like we have only few members today.
yeah, we may have joined on. That's fine. Right, so everyone has a private tutoring session the last couple of minutes. All right, I think we can just get started. I think this can probably be the small crew for this week. So this week, again, this office hour is meant for if you have any questions around your case studies, um, if you have any questions around AI in general, I'm here to answer them. So if you have any questions about what the plan should be or anything like that, just please let me know. If not, you can if you can just answer, you can put your questions in the chat if you like, and I'll be able to respond to them as quickly as possible. So I'll leave the floor open for you, the students. So
Hey, Luis, I have a question just in general about RAG implementation.
yeah,
Oops.
go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. So what is the best framework for RAG evaluation? What are
So
some
that's
techniques to evaluate, RAG answers?
yeah, and that's a very subjective
Okay.
response, but there's different ways you can evaluate RAG. Now it depends on how you're running it.
Okay.
So my question is, are you running this in your own deployment? Are you using AWS, are you using Databricks, are you using Azure, are you using any cloud providers?
Cloud providers for LLM
Your RAG.
or for RAG? We're using BB8.
Okay.
It's an on-prem installation.
Yeah. So but there's no AI enabled features in that, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why is because there's some the reason I ask is there's some cloud providers that have already built-in RAG evaluations.
Oh, okay. No, no, no. It's nothing to do with. Yeah, it's a pure plain installation of VV8 on a on-prem server.
Okay. So there is a couple of RAG evals out there. I think I talked about this possibly I think it was 2 office hours ago. Someone had questions as well, and I usually point them out to Ragas. Ragas is usually an open source. I'll need to send a request to share my screen. One second. Just get permissions to share screen.
Yeah, can you try now?
Yeah. Okay. So Ragas is one of them. So it helps you to get you to evaluations, especially running RAG.
Okay.
So it gives you step-by-step processes. It's all open source. You can run metrics. So again, if you're using OpenAI or using other things, you can always just change what model that you're
Okay.
using to do your RAG from here.
Okay.
So you build your RAG, it's going to show you that what happens in your RAG, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what's the most important part when you do evaluations, you have to, when you do this, you have to do evaluation data sets, right? So you need to have example queries of your questions and expected responses from your RAG. So the most important part of when you're doing a RAG is to build a golden data set of what should be the answer, what's the questions and what should be the expected answer.
Mm.
And this is where you have to take the most time. You probably have to build it out, probably a couple days just to focus on 100, 200, 300, 400 questions that could really help evaluate. So how I usually do it is I look at what are critical questions that your RAG should be able to answer. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's in part of these critical questions can't answer, then like what's a go, no go decision of deploying this RAG? So
Mm.
if there's 60, 50, or there's 50 questions that are that had to be critically answered, those should be your first focus on creating your evaluation data set. And
Okay.
then you add questions afterwards that are edge cases. So they could ask this, or something could be asked this, or this, and you can add
Mm.
edge cases as you go on, as you build out your golden data set. Once you have your data set already up, you can start reloading Ragas from this, import the Ragas package, and you start doing evaluation data sets. Now there's different metrics. So example here, it's already built in LM context, faithfulness, factual correctness. There's tons of different ones. MLflow also has evaluations set as well. But this
Mm-hmm.
one is sort of built up for you, and it gives you a quick view of really fast of how contextual was it when you're. So what's going to do is going to look at your evaluation data set and
Yeah.
compare your LM response to what the expected response should be.
Okay.
And
Okay.
these metrics are what against what the expected response should be versus actually what your model is actually pumping out.
Okay. So
And
this metrics response, is it for each of these questions or the entire data set?
so you're gonna have two metrics, right? One for each of the responses, and then one overall that's coming
Overall.
in.
Okay. 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 Okay.
And it should give you like an overall data set from there. So this was
Okay.
a simple one.
Okay.
And then there's different ways you can do this as well. So again,
Oh, looks like
how,
there's a generate synthetic test set also.
yep,
So
you
you
can
can
do that.
generate, if you don't have the golden data set.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's different ways to get in there. Let me just double check. So MLflow. So this one as well. This one MLflow has one to show you how to do quick RAG, and then also evaluate as well, right? So it really depends on what like really fast ways of doing it. So a lot of people like MLflow because a lot of companies use it. It takes a little bit more. It takes a little bit more to configure, but it does give you sort of a cleaner output in terms of understanding, example, latency, token counts. This one has a little bit more toxicity, There's different ones you can add: faithfulness, justification, relevance, and then you can have a justification of why it was really a good answer compared to your evaluation or not. And they give you example on the left side, like example workbooks, etc. And you can go from there. So MLflow also has that really good tracing back and be able to understand it more. But what you really want to look at when you build out a RAG is your traceability. You should be able to trace exactly step by step what's going in your RAG in terms of the user's query to which chunks have been pulled out,
Okay.
understanding what chunks have been used in order to feed it, and then go from there. Because then if once you've sort of built that traceability and you see something wrong in your evaluations, you can quickly go back and see, okay, why is it wrong? Oh, it's pulling out these terms for these chunks.
Okay.
So you have to go back and really look at how to better your RAG from there. That should
So
give you
is MLflow an equivalent of Langsmith?
So yeah, so Langsmith is another observability traceability,
Right.
but I think you have to pay for using it in production versus just normal.
Yeah. So MLflow is open source and is available for free.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I remember I'm using Langsmith and it only give me 100 queries free, and that could be traced, and then it erases the memory.
Okay. I mean, in terms of production workload, right? And we have to look at a robust solution, right? So even if it means to pay a subscription or a one-time fee, whatever that is, um, I'm looking at Langsmith somehow. I don't know why I'm so inclined towards Langsmith.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I'm actually using Langsmith for another project I'm working on right now. And you
okay.
sort of the thing with Langsmith, you have to configure it like just like MLflow and the other ones. You have to configure it to let's see if it lets me log in quickly. To surely show
So is it not as straightforward as just plugging in the Langsmith key?
no, because you have to set up how you want your tracing to look like.
Oh, okay.
So example, let's see, this is one I have them doing for Climate Chat Productions in Langsmith. There's a maximum retention you can have to this. So example here. I have my tracing, but I built all my tracing in using, for example, like this section of the RAG, I had to put trace this section of the RAG, trace this, because I really wanted to break down my
Oh, okay.
quality checks,
Okay.
getting the different sides, etc. And I really wanted to see how long each section was taking, because one thing about using RAG, it is this: if the more information, more things you put into it, the more latency you'll have, right?
Correct.
And you don't want to have a long latency in your RAG. So I usually put timers as well under each section to understand it. Where is the most time taking in this, and what can I do to speed this up? So as I'm looking here, I see response generation is my longest. It's taking half the time of the query process. And then if there's document re-ranking is very slow, that doesn't matter. And the hybrid search is taking a little bit more time. So okay, so hybrid search is fine. It's because giving me better answers, so better responses, and response generation is taking the response time. So again, I built, so again, in Langsmith, you can get the IDs, how it's running, total latency type. I made a chain from it. But of course, when I did all this, did it all through code. Like, and I went through the coding and added the traces that need to be in there. In Langsmith, you can do a quick glance of how latency is. If something's over time, um, why is it going over time? So then you could see this because this was in German language that people wanted to ask a response to. So it took a little bit longer to generate a response that way. So I can
Okay.
quickly go back and review how my quality RAG is doing. But again, traceability is not it's not the same as evaluation. This is only like half the answer, because now there should be another evaluation of checking this and saying, hey, is this response actually the right one?
Mm.
So yeah, there's definitely, when you go down a RAG, there's a lot of,
So by default, if you don't code anything for Langsmith and just plug in the key, what metrics does it or what trace um, does it go or does it capture?
No, you won't be able to get any trace. Like you'll have to follow the documentation
Oh, okay.
that's in Langsmith. So you have to, example, I'll just share the screen again, sorry. So when you do Langsmith, they'll give you a quick start, install dependencies, set up your environment. So you have to put Langsmith as true, put your Langsmith API, and then when you start writing it, it depends if you're using TypeScript or Python, you have to import the packages,
Mm-hmm.
import things you're using for, and then this is example of a simple one. So they rolled this out, they wrapped it, and then the retriever is going to grab everything from that small responses. But if you want to trace an entire application,
Mm-hmm.
you can see here they import different packages. You have to put decorators on top of it, which ones you want to trace it as well. So there is some work to do
Okay.
in your code in order to have trace certain areas. But as long as you have the tutorials, as long as you have the quick ways of doing this, how to add observability, how to prototype in it, how to trace your LLM calls, it'll it'll help you really how to roll this out quickly, right? So, like I said, there isn't an overall. This is the best one,
Mm.
because there's different ways you can do it. Like I said, there's like MLflow, there's this and this, and there's Langsmith, and there's all these different traceabilities. I like MLflow because I use it a lot in Databricks.
Okay.
And they actually built it inside their system. So I don't have to do that much, but example, they have it on nice dashboards. They have correctness, groundness, safety, shows you pass and fails. So now this is more focused towards evals versus just traceability, right? And traceability is built-in functionality from MLflow. So they have all these different ways to go in there and check out your RAG and how's your RAG doing. And you can just change different LLMs, right? So let's say you're using one LLM and you're getting a really bad score, you simply just change your LLM to maybe ChatGPT o3 model, then look, the most smartest model, then you're seeing your score increases to 90%, right? You won't know which model is really best for you until you start playing around and having the evaluation with KPIs
Right.
versus Latitude. So hopefully that'll give you enough to get information started, maybe a little bit of homework, but
Yeah. Thank you.
in the next class, I'm going to go through how to build an MLflow deployment open source when doing RAG.
Okay. Okay. You mean the next series of?
Yes, yes. Gen AI 103, I think it is, for advanced Gen AI.
Okay. And Luis, I missed the last part of the last session. What is the project work that we're supposed to do? Uh, I know that
Mm,
there were some use cases,
Yep.
depending on the break room.
Let me just see what group you're in right now.
I think I'm in 4 or 5.
It's
We got
showing
added to a WhatsApp group.
yeah. So let me pull up group four's work. Sorry, one sec.
Yeah, group 4. Yeah, mine is group 4.
I think I put it in the chat here. So each group is assigned a business case
Okay.
based off your group number. So let me just share this top three. So group one is business case one, group two is business case two, group three is business case three, and example, your business case four. What you're trying to do is, as you are looking to do, is solve a business problem. So
Okay.
if you were in charge of an AI department and someone comes in and saying, "Hey, I need a sales agent that does different things," and what the business requirement is, what they're looking to do, looking at what to do in terms of adding on Salesforce. Here's the infrastructure that they have. What's the resources that you need to look at in terms of constraints when they want to do it.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and what's the expected benefit. So again, you're trying to build a business
What of
case,
a proposal?
a proposal of how you're going to be implementing this. What's
Okay.
the cost? What's the resources? What's your solution to this, and how you're going to be doing it?
Okay.
So the WhatsApp group should be sort of coordinating. Obviously, there shouldn't be one person doing all this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it should be like, hey, could someone look at timeline and resources, how long it would take to do this, or help break down like the solutioning, how we're going to be creating this, how we're going to do the cost. Is there any ROI? How do we calculate ROI, etc., like that, right? So
Mhm.
those are different things that again, the part of the business case is. Some of them are a little bit harder, so this is why I've asked that I open up these office hours if people have questions, if they want to help solution some of this stuff. I'm here to help support as well. I know now you had a question. Um,
Hey Luis, this is Jyoti.
yeah.
Hi.
Good.
No, once you finish this, I have a question on business case 6 and team 6. You can finish this, then we can go there.
Okay, for sure. So, Sachin, do you have any questions on what's supposed to be delivered?
Do we have a template that everybody can follow for consistency?
Yeah, so if you go into the WhatsApp group,
Uh-huh.
I put a business case sample
Okay.
there as well. So I went through one example of a business case and how it could be set up and created and go from there.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Sure. I'll take a look. I
Awesome.
will miss the message.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, Luis. Please go ahead.
All right, Jyoti, I think you're up.
Okay. This one is IT service desk AI agent you mentioned. I have question around the proposed solution. So you mentioned it as ServiceNow virtual agent boosted with Anthropic Claudes on it. So you're expecting us, I mean, I was just looking over the internet. I saw there is already a ServiceNow virtual agent or AI agent. Is the expectation to use that and then back it up with the RAG or create entirely a new frame and all for the solution?
So that's a good question. So for this purpose of this project, it would be best like so example, when I say Anthropic Claude Sonnet, that's simply just an LLM. So I really want you to think about is how this virtual agent should work. So example, let's say the whole point of it is like, okay, so someone submits a ticket in, where does that ticket go? So it's right now it goes to ServiceNow, but let's say before going to ServiceNow, it's an email that gets sent to sent to an inbox, right? This inbox could have a virtual agent LLM read the email. An agent then formats it and then creates another request to another agent, and the other agent then resets the password, confirming the email address and the request coming in. And then another ticket goes to ServiceNow saying the ticket has now been closed, and that then like finishes off the loop, right? Just something to, and then again, you can say this LLM that's doing all this is Anthropic's Claude Sonnet, or you can use another model from that part. But I just put proposed solutions as as examples you guys can use. Not that it has to be that way to be solved, but I sort of just help understand what are things that could be done, could be through Power Automation, could be when tier 2 becomes escalated on service tickets, right? I just put different ways to start thinking about what are possible solutions or different ways to solve this. So that's what again, so you don't have to stick to using this, but you can use any other model. If you like Google better, go ahead. But
No, I think I'm having question around the service now, basically more than the LLM here. What I was thinking is IT service desk, when you say whenever we have an issue, we call the IT service desk, right? So this one, instead of calling the service desk, we should be able to chat in ServiceNow when you log in and without even creating a ticket. Just chat and say, hey, I have this, I need to get this installed, and the chat will take care, initiate some workflow on the back end and make sure it is installed already. It's installed directly without even creating a ServiceNow ticket. That's what I was thinking, but I think what you mentioned is the user creates a ServiceNow ticket and then this is triggered. That's what you're saying, right?
it could go, I like your idea as well. Like it could be a chatbot you have on your IT side. Hey, I need to reset my password. The only thing to remember on this is if I would do something like this, it would be security, right? So it needs to authenticate the user using some AAD, either through the Microsoft thing, the first they have. So first user gets authenticated. Once user gets authenticated, then it goes to ask the question like what do you need help with? And then definitely if the chatbot's working and doing work, like instead of maybe there has to be some sort of a log showing that the work that's been done, right? So although the chatbot doesn't log a ticket for ServiceNow in terms of getting someone to help, the chatbot solves it by resetting that user's password, but then sends a log information to help the user Joythy to reset password, so they can have just a record of what's happening in terms of that work efforts being solved, right?
Got
So.
it.
And in the ROI would be this, okay, the chatbot did this within seconds, right? Within 5 minutes of the user talking to it versus ServiceNow, a ticket will be submitted, tickets go to the queue. There's a live person who's answering you have 5 IT individuals answering and doing password resets, therefore the time to save that was this much, right? So again, you can make fake numbers up. You don't have to like be for sure, but again, you can just say, hey, the average person for IT costs this much, and then we're trying to solve the whole downtime of that, right? So there's definitely lots of ways to look at that. But yeah, very good. Like again, there's no one solution. I'm just very interested in what you guys come up with, and I just gave some proposed. Maybe some people are stuck, right? So proposed solutions are more.
I think we were entirely discussing about chatbot. We didn't think that the ticket should be created and then this virtual agent should kick in. Maybe that's also a very good idea. We'll have the ticket SLA also measured if that is the case from when the ticket is created and when it is resolved. So let me tell to my team. I'll see what they say.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's different ways to solve it, and it's very different ways of being creative, right? So.
And I have two more, sorry. On the technical specifications, you mentioned performance target as 85% first contact resolution. So 85% of the tickets that are coming in should be resolved. That is the expectation.
Yeah, so if you look at the business needs, so 60% of tickets are password resets or software install requests, right? So if we know that 60% of the tickets coming in, that means that it needs to be password reset, then that can be automated quickly, right? And software install request, if the user is a manager or senior manager or they're part of this department, there should be sort of already a rule template saying if you're from marketing and you have designer level access and you're a designer and you're part of this code, then someone's asking a request to use Adobe as a software install. I need to install Adobe on my computer. Instead of submitting a ticket, waiting for someone to look at it, okay, throw it on the computer, okay, now you can install it. You have an agent that goes in and it's like, okay, based off your access level and your job level, we have now enabled it in your IT download sector, right? So those tickets are then become already automated. So at least 60% of those two business cases are now completely automated, saving you tons of time. And then let's say you have 2 or 3 more business cases, and you can probably get up to the 85%, right? So kind of get that first contact resolution without being escalated more. So again, this is what the business, again, when you work with business, sometimes they have really unrealistic expectations. Like I want 100% this, or I want 90% that. So you can always push back and say, hey, by doing this, you can do this, or we could achieve another 10% by doing that, right? So always push back and see what they want.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And when you say on the costing, right? ServiceNow virtual agent license bump. So you're expecting these virtual agents will be limited in number. And each virtual agent may have certain capacity, like it can handle 100 tickets at a time, kind of stuff, right? That's what you mean?
Yeah, it could be something like that. Also example like as you know, agents to agents are a new technology. You could have a sort of an orchestrator at the top that looks at the ticket and says, okay, it's a password reset. So you can send it to a password reset agent. Or this is a software install request. So you have a software install agent, right? So then your diagram will look like user answers questions. It's either through a forum or chat, and then gets sent to the orchestrator. Orchestrator then directs it to which agent it's looking to do that work, right? So when I say virtual agent license bump is again, if you expect to see more volume now that these jobs can be automated, or do you expect to see different things happening now that more user requests come in and be looked at that way, right? So as you're getting in there and you're creating these virtual agents, there is a cost to host each of these agents, but it's not as much as a human does, right? So the only thing I'm
Got it.
saying, like, what's your annual IT support savings? And that's why I put it 950K. I just threw a random number there, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, got it.
Actually,
Thank you.
there's one question on that password reset thing, right? Let's say if agent is able to reset the password, but then why do we even need an agent, right? They should have been done through web itself without an agent.
so this, again, this is current business process, right? So currently, if you do a password reset, hey, I need a password reset. Sometimes they're automatically done through some businesses. Some of them actually have to go through IT and reset their passwords that way, and there's actually a physical person, right? So maybe this is a company that's not really that's really slow to move forward, right?
Okay.
And want to use AI to make themselves look better.
Right. I see. I understand some situations, but if agent could do that, I would assume they should be able to do through web itself. In the sense, reset link or something should. Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, and again, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a weird reason why people wouldn't use a web service, but maybe they need to be authenticated 2-3 times. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Now, in the sense, without person, if agent is kind of able to reset, means maybe password access reset link is not visible or easily accessible otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, typically banks are very for example, like when you first start your job at a bank, they'll give you like a password. Sometimes it resets, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. Like banks are very slow. They use very clunky software because it's very safe, but there is some latency to that and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely optimizations all around.
Yeah, or it can be an access to a restricted software, maybe some proprietary ones.
So yeah, there's reasons. I don't know. Like example, if you have to do a software request, right? There could be a web application that could automatically validate who you are, and then based off that and do that, right? But so then why do IT people still need that ticket, right? Why do people still need to review it? Maybe because there needs to be a human in the loop. It needs to be checking how many licenses are left. If there's so many licenses are left, it can be done, can't be done, or there's a cost that needs to be associated with it. Sometimes, like say you submit a request for Power BI, right? A Power BI license is $10 a month. Instead of just automatically clicking and approve, like it needs to go through some approval loops. So who knows, like example, like you say, oh, I need to have access to Power BI, and then it gets sent to your manager, and then your manager needs to say approved, and then once that's approved, then you get loaded that system, right? Sometimes there's levels of approvals that need to happen as well. But again, that could all be automated through emails and like simply I put here maybe I think I put a Power Automate, right, as another options of using that as well. So
What do you mean by OpenAI fallback here? Is there OpenAI fallback?
yeah, so when I think about these things, again, I think of it like when you go to production, sometimes when you have an LLM that's working, something's happening or something's not working properly, you can then have a backup or something happening. So let's say Power Automate was chosen to help automate the functions of these things, but then when something happens, it goes wrong, you can also have like Azure OpenAI as an option to help, or using LLMs to recognize what's happening and help with the routing. So again, like there's different ways to look at it and go from there. So
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Luis.
it's Hope you're having fun with the project.
Yes, yeah. Mm. I think learning is one thing, applying is another thing altogether. Mm.
We'll be an AI expert after this, so don't worry.
At least if I know at least 0.5%, I'll be great. I'll feel great, I'd say.
Well, well,
It's
the
a,
most important part is the business part, right? If you can handle the business, then
Mhm.
the solution afterwards is fine.
Yes.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions on their slides or what they think about what they want to present in terms of? So remember, the presentation is not this week; it's next week. Simply, we don't have class this Saturday. All right. So I expect perfect proposals then next Saturday.
We will try our best. Yes.
No worries. No, it's the whole point, right? This is a learning process.
Mhm.
There are what I really like about BSF, there's a lot of versatile roles. A lot of people come with different experiences in different areas. So when you work together, you can really see the work coming in and how you all leverage each other's strengths. So
Actually, Luis, I have a general question. Like, so we have hired a VP of AI and data management. He started and he worked on some AI stuff. Now he is doing like even he was working on some vulnerability related, but he is doing SQL and coding. I felt okay, he didn't have enough AI work to do. That's why he's kind of doing low level hands on. What do you see in other companies? Like these AI guys are being busy, or sometimes they start and then don't find work and they do other things.
yeah, so that's a very good question, and it's very interesting that behavior. So, what happens is sometimes these VPs come in, they notice there's a lack of talent in terms of AI or in terms of where they're looking to go to. So sometimes they get into coding modes and they start building things themselves, and it's because they sort of know what they're looking for, they know what they want, and maybe there isn't that group of talent of AI engineers that he has access to go up and get started. So what I've noticed, there's really two, three types of different VPs of AIs I've seen coming in. Like majority of I've seen is one is the product owner. A lot of companies have decided to go more of a person who knows more about product rather than AI. And this is why people who go down the strategy route is sort of have that advantage in the sense that, yes, it's easy to create a rag. Yes, it's easy to create a chatbot. It's easy to create this. But in the overall, what's the actual final product that users are going to be using? What's the different phases? And where do you see the value of it going in the next 5 years? Having that product mindset really will do wonders for those who are building AI products and systems to look up how they're going to be handling the future customers. So I've seen one of that way. Two is exactly what you're saying for I call it the scrappy VP. They go in there, they don't see enough things going on, or they don't trust the team, or there's not enough talent. So then the VP starts coding, things like that. Like example, there was one company that it wasn't the VP, but it was the CEO said he was bored one weekend and he wanted to develop his own ML learning algorithm based off of weather patterns, right? So there's individuals who are very smart and they tend to don't want to give up the coding side, the hands-on, versus focusing on the strategic side, right? So there's pros and cons to that. One is that they know exactly what they want, what they're looking for. The cons of this, it will slow down strategy, product growth, in terms of where it's going to go. So yeah, and then the third group of VPs I've seen coming in are ones that got into the AI role that have no idea what they're doing, and it's very interesting to work with those type of individuals who are, so let's say they were in marketing, then they got pushed to AI, and then they think that AI can solve everything, right? So An example of this would be, let's say they're looking to implement a RAG on something huge or something like that. And then they're like, well, we could just throw an LLM at that and it should solve it. And it should be solved that issue. You guys go figure it out. But meanwhile, at the back end, there still should be fine tuning. There needs to be model training. There needs to be a little bit more infrastructure of what's going to be happening to your model in order for it to be to up and grow, right? So those are sort of the three types I've seen at different companies as you go in and sort of learn about what they really want to do.
So in our case, I felt like he didn't feel like he has enough AI work to do. He's spread his breadth to other areas like data management and all. Do you see that companies, the AI team being busy working on the solid AI work for a long time, or just they work for some time and they reach a wall that, okay, now I don't have much to do on the AI side?
And so I think that this comes down to leadership, right? So if leadership brings in this VP of AI and he has his team, right? And they said, okay, well, I want you to start working on something. If the AI team is now like trying to like scramble and find work or
Yeah.
I know what's happening on, then there's this to me it's a lack of planning, lack of strategy, lack of business understanding because that's not a cheap team, right? The VP of AI is going to probably paying a hefty salary. The AI engineers, data scientists working from it also as well. They need to be working on high ROI cases, right? There should have been like case studies done and saying, okay, what are the top ROI cases we can work on that could bring 5 million or 10 million to the company, or at least 3 million, right?
Yep.
And those are the business cases that should be started to be looked at and worked on, not random rags or random chatbots, right? You should be looking at what could be really the best impact for that group. So
maybe they are missing that kind of vision that, okay, I could do big. Normally, so then in those cases, what do you suggest? Like in the sense they are missing something, or they need a consultant, or they need a different perspective, or they need to.
yeah, so it's hard to tell someone else how to do their job, right? And
Yes.
the only thing that I usually do as we come in and we help companies and we look at them is we provide more of an advisory. So, example, we would pull out a deck and say, hey, like, where are you in your journey? And then we show them like an AI journey or an AI factory and saying, hey, you can start from here. This is where you want to go in terms of maturity. Where are you in this journey? Let's like go point A. Like, okay, how can we help you get to point B? So point B is really driving large impact, high impact cases. So remember, if you look at week 2, I remember we looked at some cases from what's that, Gartner, right? And Gartner shows what are some high impact, low effort, right? We call them the low hanging fruits cases that could be sort of done first, and then think about how you're going to model that strategy out, right? So
Okay.
there's different things that you could do in support. So the only thing I would say, like I know you can't really tell the VPA what to do or things like that, but you could say, hey, I've noticed that these are some high impact things.
Yeah.
Anything I can do to help with this and help you support you in your journey. But yeah, so
I see what you're saying. Yeah. It's hard to jump in. They may take personally, but yes, we need to see how to approach. Yeah.
Which company is this, by the way?
I don't want to tell.
anonymous.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
yes, that's really a great question to put me in trouble.
Okay.
I need to drop off. Thank you, Lois.
Okay. All right, we got 5 minutes left. Any burning questions? Anything I can help discuss? The only thing I would say is what's important to do these proposals is to remember is to get stakeholder buy-in, right? So it's easy to say, I'm going to create an AI, I'm going to create this, I'm going to create that. So how do you really drive home the point of buy-in? And this is where a lot of people who are getting into AI, if they have a really change to resistant company, an old company, maybe reasons why that this AI area is not being successful, right? And that really comes to this person needs to really handle and have those conversations So remember, I talked about in week 3 that you sort of need to have that grandfather, right? That grandfather role from the top, that's leadership that can get you that support of pushing forward any AI initiatives and gives you the blessing of going ahead and going forward, right? You also need that middle person who's an advocate, and you also need your manager, which is your champion, that's championing all these different all these different projects, and then this person will be highlighted. But this is sort of how you create a change, how you create movements. And AI may sound new and may sound, but it's been there for a while. Machine learning has been there for a while, and NLP's been there for a while. So now just because people are throwing the word AI at NLP, they're now like scared of it, right? So just remember that AI isn't a magical ball that fixes everything. We just have to be realistic with it, ensure that, hey, there is a way, opportunity to optimize business, to save business cases, to improve performance, enhance it. It's not always about cutting jobs, but how can we do major efficiencies with the team? And like the first things, like I said before, is that fallacy of let's just do AI, let's bring AI in, and it's supposed to help us. And yes, it can help you individually. You can have ChatGPT open and help you write your emails. That's great. But then why aren't projects moving faster, being delivered 3 or 4 times faster? Is because again, it's not just about enabling an AI for everyone. There actually has to be a change of strategy, change of roles, change of movements, and going from there. Not sure if you guys seen, there's news. I think it was, I'm not sure if it's Duolingo. Was it Duolingo? That they said they're moving to be an AI first company. So they're removing all their contract workers and having AI replace it. And they're trying to really shift how AI works with their full-time staff and how it can really work from that. So I'm really curious how that's going to play out. Let me just double check if it is Duolingo or not. Let me just check here.
Yeah, it is Duolingo.
It is Duolingo? Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
put
they are using it for content creation. I think the scenarios and examples that they create for the tests at every level in Duolingo, right? I think
Yeah.
they're using it for that.
So yeah, I'll paste the article for the chat for those who are just hearing that for the first time. So yeah, it says Duolingo will replace contract workers with AI, right? So they got like a huge email saying they're going to be helping do this, and this is the new way of working. So we'll see how they're looking at ways to remove bottlenecks, right? So I'm very curious on what the strategy we'll be looking at, and we'll be looking at Duolingo very closely as well as they continue. But it's definitely new in the business. Also, I'm not sure if you guys seen AI education has now sort of been mandated. I think in China, starting at grades like those who are 6 years old and older are now it's mandatory in schools for them to start learning AI. And I think Trump was trying to sign something very similar as well in the US to start using AI in schools now to start learning, right? So the generation that's going to be sort of being built out and from here on out, imagine you at 6 years old having AI, right? It's going to be a whole different world that we see.
One quick question, Luis. To follow some of these news on AI specific things, is there any source that you usually just look into every day, or is there any, like, I know Hugging Face is something that where you go and check for, like it's kind of like Reddit for most of the AI questions, right? But is there any other source for news related stuff or what is going on in the AI world? What do you
Yeah, it's
generally use?
a very good question. So it really depends. If I'm looking for technical news, I usually follow the top leaders of Meta, of Anthropic, of OpenAI on LinkedIn. I usually follow top CTOs, things like that, because they're the first ones that drop news
Oh, okay.
features. And they usually post it on LinkedIn for those who are trying to read. So that's where I try to catch up on the technical pieces. I read the news at least like 3 times a day, trying to catch myself up. It's impossible. Like for those who are saying like those are like AI influencers, they know everything. Like I don't even know like what's happening. Sometimes a new model comes out yesterday, and I was too busy working that I didn't see what that new model was, and it's really hard to catch up on what's the
Yeah.
latest models coming out. But in terms of, for example, learning about Duolingo, things like that, I just read the news in the morning, at least for the first 10, 15 minutes. And that usually gets
News,
me.
when you say news, it's just like a Google News, or is there any specific source that you?
Yeah, like no, there's
Yeah.
sources. Like, I usually use, like, example, you log into your browser, right? And then your browser has like those news.
Ah,
So
okay,
then
got it.
I usually subscribe to like technology sections, AI. There's an AI sections now in these new feeds. So then to learn about what's happening in different companies, things like that, or new things, usually those pop up and I read those.
Yeah.
So there's different ways, and my secret sauce is how I understand how these LLMs are working is I usually follow Reddit. So I usually
Mm.
Reddit is how I'm seeing how real people interact with these LLMs and how they
Is there any
compare.
specific subreddit in Reddit that you subscribe to, or?
Yeah, let me just pull one up. Let me just see this one. Let's see here. So there's ChatGPT Reddit. So there's ChatGPT's ones I usually subscribe to. AI prompt programming is another one I subscribe to. Um, Llama one as well. Yeah, those are the top ones I just follow on those sites.
Okay.
Local Llama, yeah. So those ones are usually in ChatGPT. People are telling what's going on, or and the AI prompt programming. People are talking about how the prompting is changing different methods and things like that. So, and also you could also find on LinkedIn, there's lots of people who are posting about work they actually do. So sometimes it's the hard job. The hard part is as you're getting this information is finding time to catch yourself up.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's so much.
that's right.
Also, in continuation with that, there are many LLM versions in each of the like ChatGPT or Gemini or anywhere that we can use, like GPT-4, O4, O4 Mini. There are many versions. So how do we keep up with all those, and how do we know which one to use when?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So that's where you have to sort of understand a little bit more how these models work. So you'll see that some of them are reasoning models and some of them are not reasoning models. For example, in ChatGPT, let me just pull up which models are now available on the site. But let's say, okay, so let me just share my screen. I'll show you an example. Like on ChatGPT, we have right now GPT-4o, O3, O4 Mini, O4 Mini High, and then you have like these different ones happening, right? So how do you know which ones to use, which ones to go from there? So right now, in terms of which one's the most smartest, most reasoning model, this I would say O3 right now is my favorite. And again, you can see here it uses advanced reasoning. So these are reasoning models. So remember last time we did an example of how to use tokens. These models take more tokens, they take more time. You won't get a response in less than 5 seconds. These models will take 10, 15, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to think of a response. But it'll be a really highly thought about responses and are very articulate. O4 is that, I don't know why. I'll talk about how this works though, but O4 or O4 Mini are supposed to be advanced reasoning models. For example, there's supposed to be a model called O4. But ChatGPT hasn't OpenAI hasn't released it to us. So they're giving us flavors of that O4 model because they're still training it. And it's super smart, but it takes a lot more resources. So they're giving us a mini version of this O4 model, which is supposed to be better than the O3. But because they're minis, they're not as good as the O3, right? So they give you O4 mini, which is really fast advanced reasoning, so it's faster than O3, but it's not as smart. And then O4 mini high, great at coding, visual reasoning. So it's giving a bit more power to the O4 mini high. So then you're like, okay, so what do I need to do for every single day work? Okay, so GPT-4o. So
Oh.
GPT-4o is sort of then what I've noticed is that Sam Altman posted on just this week that they're doing updates to GPT-4o to make it smarter. So every single time you have a common question, if you want to do big work, etc., GPT-4o should be the one that you need to work with. Like you can ask something quick, something to do. And sometimes asking a reasoning model a very simple question is completely overkill. Because you could be saying, well, how do I solve this, right? And something GPT-4 could do within 10 seconds. O3 will take its time, reason through it, and say, okay, based off my reasoning, this is it. But you could have had the answer 2 minutes ago. GPT-4 is great for the most tasks that you have, but you really want to do something really thoughtful, provoking, mathematical, solving something, then you would use these O3 and O4 models. 4.5 has come out, which is not part of these O, because the O is for the reasoning models that you can see here that has the front. These four, the four ones are the same models here, and they're not reasoning models. They're basically the same text generation models with no reasoning attached to them. So you would choose 4.0 mini if you want something even faster than 4.0 because it's a mini version of it. So it's technically way faster and way cheaper to use. And then they made 4.5 because this one is made for deep research.
Okay.
So you can ask a question and it's going to research like 20 websites or 30 websites on the web for you to respond. So a quick rule of thumb is if it's O at the front of your ChatGPT, the reasoning models.
Oh.
If they don't have that, then these are just the normal models, and it depends on the cost and price you want to use. So each model, so then that's just ChatGPT, and then you have Google who have their own 1.5, 2.0, 2.5. Some of them will say reasoning, some of them won't say reasoning. So again, for most AI tasks that are the cheapest, you would usually go for the mini. For example, for me, every single time I go to a task, I would choose GPT-4o mini simply because it's way cheaper API, still has the strength of GPT-4o smartness, but I don't need to pay for all that extra power or horsepower that it has, right? So usually the mini ones are the cheapest ones. I usually start off a task. Now, if I see it's very bad performance in my RAG, then I upgrade the model to the next version and then go from there.
Yeah, so before we use, we need to know all this and start using wisely.
Yeah, use the cheapest model. So if you're allowed to use Google models, look for what's the cheapest Google model you can use and just work with that first to build out your own AI product that you're looking to do. And then once you start building out your evaluations and evaluating how well the model's doing, then start switching to the other models to see if you can get better results.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very confusing. But again, you can always ask ChatGPT, what's the best LLM for Google right now? And you can simply ask it itself too, and it's going to search the web for me. Again, I'm using 4.0, and it's going to tell me right now, okay, so if you're looking to do multimodal models, you can use the Gemma series. The Gemma series are open sourced.
Okay.
And then that's saying it's the best model for right now. And they're saying that's the most flagship. So again, if you're stuck, don't worry, you can always ask the LLM itself, what would you choose to start off a project using Google? And it'll definitely help you out that way.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries, no worries. It takes a lot of research. It's because I'm in this every single day. So all right, so I know we're 10 minutes over the hour. We started 10 minutes late. So if anyone has any more questions, I can stay back for 5 more minutes, but if not, we can drop off here.
Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you, Luis. Bye, guys.
All right, everyone. I'll see you guys Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for holding for 10 extra minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, bye for now.